Chapter 4, Rain. The wildlife around the path was mesmerizing. Small streams of crystal clear water, luscious green trees, small bushes flailing gently in the breeze, and the wide exotic varieties of animals were only adding more to the beauty of the trail. Rias, being an avid lover of such a living atmosphere, couldn't control her enthusiasm and was having the time of her life watching the unreal beauty of the forest around them. As her partner jumped from one stone to another, her whole body trembled and her eyes occasionally flickered to her side to appreciate the sense of peace that the beautiful forest was providing her. "It's so beautiful!" She almost shouted in awe and fastened her hold around her partner's neck. "I know." Her eyes curved up as she smiled at her partner, one who had been carrying her on his back for hours now. "Are you tired?" she asked him jokingly, not expecting any sort of an answer to her stupid question. No, he surprised her with his answer, and even more so when he adjusted his hands beneath her thighs and began to walk faster. "I'm all okay," he added in a soft voice, his words sounding as sweet as honey. Rias hummed in response, but her eyes never left his face. It had started to sweat now, and she couldn't help but feel a little worried about him. He had been walking like that, with her on his back, for hours now. Even a stamina freak would get tired after that. "Do you need water?" she asked him. Naruto stopped abruptly and looked over his shoulder. "Are you trying to make fun of me?" His question earned a gasp from Rias. "Of course not. Why would you think that?" His blue eyes observed her for a while before turning back to the trail in front of him. I thought." He paused as red flared on his cheeks, one that didn't go unnoticed by Rias, and soon everything began to click in her mind. He. She couldn't stop a soft chuckle from escaping her mouth. Naruto scoffed at her. "Why are you laughing now?" he grumbled, lips almost forming an adorable pout. "What?" Her chuckles got even louder. "Stop." In answer, Rias untangled her right hand from around his neck and placed it gently on his forehead. "You are sweating, Naruto. I'm scared that you might end up with dehydration." Feigning an expression of concern, she whispered to the boy, remembering very well how he had poked fun at her about her lack of stamina yesterday. Naruto sighed as he finally understood what she was trying to do. "Fine. If you want me to rest, then sure, I'll take a rest." Rias would have smiled at him more had he not surprised her with his next move. "What?" she screamed in shock when she was dropped to the ground like a sack of potatoes. Opening her eyes a little, she immediately glared at the boy. "Ow, it hurts, you know," she groaned, her voice exhibiting slight bits of annoyance and anger. "What?" Naruto asked, looking as clueless as he could at that moment. "I think you told me to rest, and that's what I'm doing, Rias." Rias could have sworn that she saw a speck of a smile on his face at that moment. It was full of pride and jest, something that made her both happy and angry at the same time. "Oh, really?" she snapped at him. Eyes twitching wildly, the red-haired girl scoffed at the boy. "I never told you to drop me like that, though." Her complaint earned her a small smile from the boy, and she couldn't help but gush about how elegant it was, a perfect blend of charisma and cuteness. Her musing came to a stop when she felt someone sit beside her. Surprised, she looked to her right side and was quite surprised to see Naruto sitting there, staring at her as if she was one of the most fascinating things in the world for him. She was silenced by the boy when he raised his hand and placed it under her chin. His voice sent shivers up her spine, something that he must have not noticed, otherwise he would have stopped right there. After all, he wasn't the type of person who intrudes in someone's private space for no reason. Hell, he had barely shown any interest in her until an hour or two ago when she told him that she liked ramen too. "You know what?" Her eyes flickered away from his eyes. "What?" she squeaked, a little unsure about what was going on in his mind. Was he going to demand something lewd for her now? After all, it was their last trip and people do stupid things when they realize that they're about to die. Naruto regarded her for a while before standing up again, leaving behind a stunned Rias who was now uttering nonsense about how he's teasing her for no reason. Stand up, Rias. No. The boy glanced in her direction and sighed when he saw her lying carelessly on the ground. Fine. With a shrug to his shoulders, he whispered, Wait. In a second, Rias was beside him and was looking at him with those hopeful eyes of hers. What? You can't leave me alone, she argued. And why can't I do that? She stared at him for a few seconds before looking down at the ground. I don't know. Her whisper sounded miserable, something that didn't go unnoticed by Naruto. Rias. Bluish-green eyes perked up at her mention and widened in surprise when they saw Naruto crouching a few meters away. What are you doing? She knew what he was doing, but still, she asked because she wanted to hear it from his mouth. To answer her, Naruto looked above his shoulders and blinked his eyes, a gesture enough to make her smile again. I'm offering you a piggyback ride again. He grumbled in his own weird way, sounding neither too happy nor too sad. Why? I can walk now. An unknown emotion unraveled on Naruto's face, an emotion that Rias couldn't decipher no matter how hard she tried. It was unreadable. Because I walk faster. He finally responded, giving her what could be termed as an acceptable answer. Hey! I can walk at a good pace. I don't want you to carry me like a sack again. She retorted back. I know. Then why are you still sitting like that? Come on, stand up, we have a long way to go before we reach our destination. Naruto didn't budge from his spot and stayed in a crouched position. I won't stand up until you accept my ride, he whispered, sounding relatively serious for an argument so small. Now Rias was truly surprised. Why are you so inclined to offer me a ride? I can walk on my own, Naruto. She wasn't joking because her legs were totally fine now and she was sure she could cover up a long distance without exhausting herself. Because I like it when you rest your head on my shoulders and fall asleep. It feels nice for some reason. Even if he had tried his best, Naruto was sure he couldn't have come up with a more formal way of explaining his dilemma to his companion. It was strange, he knew, but there was nothing he could do about it. Her soft snoring, her sleep-talking, and the warmth that she oozed made him happy for some reason. It was just because of that he had been carrying her on his back for so long, otherwise there was no reason for him to do something so silly with a married girl. Hearing no response from her, Naruto slowly looked over his right shoulder, worrying what he might end up seeing on Ria's face. From the very beginning of their trip, he had made sure to not cross any line with her, but now he was sure he had probably done just that. The anxiety on his face increased promptly when Rias began to stride towards Naruto. For a second his mind went numb when she stopped in front of him and laid her eyes on his face. Let's go. A comfortable silence fell upon the surroundings as she gently wrapped her arms around his neck and plopped her chin on his shoulder. If you dash. Rias silenced him with a soft nudge on his shoulder. Don't say anything. Just start walking. A small smile appeared on his dry lips. Also, I like sleeping on your shoulders too. So don't feel weird about it. Of course, it was a lie. The rides on his back, while being a little entertaining, were still not something that she cherished to no end, but at that moment, Rias just wanted to see him smile. If being carried around like this was what it took to see his smile, then she was ready to be carried around through the whole trip. Oh! Stop stealing my ramen. Rias whined, slapping Naruto's chopsticks away and scooping up the whole bowl of ramen for herself. Huh? Naruto blinked at her, trying to look as innocent as he could. Rias immediately understood what he was trying to do. No, Naruto. Don't try to act innocent now. Eyes narrowed down, she smirked at him. Innocent? The boy tattled his head. Why would I act innocent? I have done nothing wrong. He argued back. Don't lie. Her shout startled everyone around them. I saw you grabbing pork and noodles from my bowl a couple of times. You can't fool me, Naruto. She huffed, her hands now resting beneath her chest. Seriously, did he take her for a fool? She was a lot smarter than she appeared on the outside. Naruto regarded her for a while before turning his gaze to the startled customers. I'm sorry. He hurled a quick apology towards them. As you should be. Now eat dash. I was not talking to you, Rias. Red erupted on her cheeks as she looked around and realized what was going on. The eyes of the customers made her even more embarrassed. Ahem. I see. She whispered and resumed eating her delicious bowl of ramen. A smile appeared on Naruto's lips as he stared at her red face. It looked cute, he noted. How could someone hate her? He couldn't understand. With a personality so warm and a face so beautiful, Rias was one of the most interesting girls he had ever been with. So the thought of someone hating her didn't sound right to him. I want to die too. Just like that, the smile disappeared from his face. Rias wanted to die too, he thought to himself. When she had first told him about her plan, for a very good amount of time, Naruto couldn't even believe what he was hearing. A girl that beautiful and happy shouldn't be having thoughts like that. Well, at least that was what he thought at that moment, but as their trip progressed, he came to realize that she wasn't any different from him. Just like him, Rias had lost something very important to her. How did he know? Well, Rias is an avid sleep talker. Whenever she had fallen asleep on his shoulders, he had heard her whisper names that he was not familiar with. Akino. The most common name he had heard from her mouth, and the way she whispers that name, Naruto could easily determine that it belonged to someone very close to her. A part of him wanted to confront Rias with these names, but the rational part of his mind had always stopped him from doing so. There was no reason for him to do that. Those names were Rias' secrets, and if she wanted to keep them hidden from him, then so be it. He would always respect her decision. Naruto. His eyes twinkled with surprise when her warm voice entered his ears. He looked at her and blinked when he saw her trying to avoid his gaze for some reason. Rias kept trying to avoid his gaze for a while more but soon gave up. Sighing tiredly, she shoved a big delicious piece of pork into his mouth. Are you happy now? She asked, ashamed of the attention their little interaction was getting from the nearby customers, who were now smiling at them. Naruto gasped. What? He squeaked with a mouthful of pork and fish broth. I saw your dazed face and thought that you were sad because I didn't let you eat pork from my bowl. She whispered, looking very embarrassed about what she had just done. Oh. Everything finally clicked inside his mind. Rias nodded, head still down in embarrassment. Yes. Psst. A small laugh escaped from Naruto's mouth. You are so amusing, Rias. His words made the girl's face even redder. Here. He abruptly took out a sliced piece of tomato from his bowl and leaned across the table, holding the glistening tomato in front of her mouth. You like tomatoes, right? He asked and began to twirl the tomato piece in front of her lips. Rias stared at the broth-dripping tomato for a moment, before leaping at it like a predator. That was. She trailed off with driblets of broth surrounding her rosy lips. Delicious. She finished ecstatically as Naruto stared at her face for a while more, enjoying the smile he was seeing there. Our ramen is always delicious, Rias-san. Do you want more? A voice asked delightfully. Rias jerked up and saw that the owner of the voice was none other than the middle-aged owner of the restaurant, who was standing on the other side of the counter, giving her a look that emanated nothing but warmth and care, a look that resembled her brother to a great extent. Overwhelmed by emotions, she turned her head down to hide her timid face. "Well, there's no reason we can't eat more," she said impassively, trying her best to hide the sorrow in her voice. Naruto caught the change in her voice. "Bring one for me too. I can't let her eat alone, otherwise she will end up messing something up." He ordered the owner, who for some reason was still looking at Rias, making him a little skeptical. Hearing his words, Rias' face glared at him and scoffed. "How many times do I have to tell you, Naruto? I don't mess up anything." Her complaint echoed around the silent restaurant, making her wince at the insincerity of her words. Naruto slumped at her outburst. I can clearly see that. His eyes were emanating nothing but disappointment. "Also, try to be more civil around others next time," he added in a whisper, making sure that other occupants don't hear him. In response, Rias smiled smugly at him. "Look who is saying. A guy who tried to rob me as soon as he met me." She mocked him and, to add salt to the wound, stuck her tongue out at him. Her smile widened when she saw the embarrassed look on his face. Hee. She couldn't control herself and began to laugh at him. "Now who is more civil?" Her eyes widened in surprise when she saw his right hand gliding towards her face. Speculating that he was going to hit her for making fun of him, Rias tried to veer away from the strike, but unfortunately he was faster than her. Realizing that there was no escape now, she waited for the inevitable strike. Rias waited, and waited, then to her utter surprise, instead of making an overwhelming impact with her face, Naruto's hand simply caressed her lips. There was a noodle on your face." Rias' mind went numb for a second. "Oh," she murmured silently, condemning herself for even thinking that he would hit her. "So you want to travel to that boring onsen first, or want to see those cool mountains with me?" Naruto asked, leaving little to no choice for her, except for following his wish. Knowing that he wouldn't visit the onsen at first anyway, Rias went with the second option. "I want to see those cool mountains with you," she replied. Naruto nodded, no doubt pleased with her answer. "Cool. So then finish your ramen quickly. I want to visit the top of the mountain with you. People on the street were saying that the view of the town is spectacular from there," he said, his voice doing little to nothing to hide his enthusiasm. "Are you both in a relationship?" Rias and Naruto stopped whatever they were doing as soon as they heard the owner's question. Looking at the man, an embarrassed Rias was first to answer. Well, she at least thought she was, but Naruto beat her in that. Yes. I have promised to remain by her side till the end." A deafening silence consumed the atmosphere of the store. Top of the mountain. It was dark outside. The gorgeous sun was concealed behind the dense shrouds of uncountable clouds which were presently drizzling the town with their cold water. All the beautiful streets of the town were empty, filled with only a thin pane of water and the sound of it fleeing on the cold foundation of stones and dirt. The whole city was looking lifeless yet gorgeous in a strange way. It was as if someone had taken all the living elements out of the said place to somewhere else. All that could be heard and seen was the tattering and flowing of the cold water. The mountains that surrounded the beautiful town were wrapped in a cloak of fog and lush greenery. Gusts of gentle cold breeze were rippling through the dense jungles of the mountains, making the leaves of the trees dance in the soft harmony of nature. Everything was serene and stunning. In the far opening of those beautiful mountains, the duo of Rias and Naruto was relishing the downpour. Naruto, who had been walking tirelessly around the vast town for a while, was finally enjoying something. He didn't know whether it was because of such beautiful surroundings or the company of the girl standing beside him, but he was certainly enjoying the moment. Speaking of the girl, Rias too was captivated by the whole thing. Never in her life had she witnessed a rain this amazing. Everything about it was incredible, the lush greenery covered in the mist around them, the gently pelting water in the ravine below them, and the dulcet humming of the insects. "It's amazing," she whispered, her eyes following the droplets of water that were falling from the dark sky. Naruto nodded his head. It certainly is. I have never seen anything this beautiful, he said as he placed himself on the edge of the ravine to take a better look at the river. Never knew rain can be so fascinating, you know. A small smile materialized on his lips when a drop of cold water caressed his cheek, falling to the ground soon after. Rias, why are you standing there? Come here. You wanted to see the river, right? He piped when his eyes caught her standing alone in the rain. Flustered by his words, Rias soon followed the motion of her companion and positioned herself beside him, staring at the river down below with a sad smile on her face. The rainfall was bringing back some sad yet sweet memories out of the broken closet of her heart. Memories of her and Akino enjoying the rain in Kuo, dancing and wandering around the town without any boundaries. Her friend and she were so innocent back then, didn't even know and care about what was going to happen in the future. At that time, all they looked after was how many droplets of water were trickling down their faces and who was the better dancer in the rain. Akino loved these heavy rains, and Rias was certain that her friend would have done anything to be here with her. She would have played with her, danced with her, and most importantly laughed with her. Akino. Tears rolled down her wet cheeks as she recollected the sweet memories of her best friend. One who refused to leave her side, even when she tried to push her away. Are you crying, Rias? Naruto queried, head tilted in confusion. Caught off guard, Rias immediately looked away from her companion to hide her tearful face. How did he know I was crying? She thought as she wiped her wet face, something that was totally unnecessary because the rain again spoiled it with water. Nothing, I was just thinking she stuttered and cringed forth with her own behavior when Naruto stopped her. It's okay if you don't want to share it with me. We all have something that we don't want others to know. So don't worry, I won't force you to say something that you don't want. He assured her, looking completely serious about the issue. A fragile smile was Rias' response to Naruto. Thank you, she whispered. Normally, a smile from her wouldn't have any effect on Naruto, but at that time, something stirred inside his heart. The red hue of her lips concealed in that translucent mist and pelting was a sight to behold, and he couldn't control his stupid mouth this time. Your smile looks beautiful in rain, you know. A whisper escaped his lips, and without any warning, he leaned over and gently flicked off wet red hair away from her face. Thunder roared through the clouds and illuminated the whole sky, which in turn made her red face more noticeable to his deserted eyes. What? Rias gasped in surprise when Naruto's cold fingers squeezed the pale skin of her face, tugging it upward slightly. See, now you are looking fine, Rias. Naruto whispered as he stared at her scarlet face, trying to devour it as much as he could at that moment. It was the most beautiful thing he had seen in a long time. A smile suits your face. His eyes twinkled with an unknown emotion. So try to smile as much as you can. At that moment, everything vacated Rias' mind. Oh, okay. She squeaked and tilted her head so that she could rest it on his palm. It felt nice. They stayed like that for a while before Naruto decided to break the silence. Do you want to visit the onsen now? And no. Then? We can visit the onsen tomorrow. For now, I want to stay here with you and enjoy this rain. Lost in his thoughts, Naruto was unable to see the delighted look in her eyes. Turning to her, he gently nodded his head. He mumbled. End. Chapter 5, Assassin. Cough. Cough. Light coughing echoed through the dull and dark cabin of one Uzumaki Naruto. The sound disrupted the silence that had entrenched itself as part of the room for the last few weeks. The room was nothing noteworthy as one might expect from the fabled savior of the world and was located a little far from the barren lands of the battlefield, constrained by rough and cracked walls of wood. The room was currently inhabited by the two most important individuals in the world, Uzumaki Naruto and his beloved friend, Uchiha Sasuke. From the looks on their faces, neither of the two looked pleased with how things were transpiring around them. It was as if something was troubling them, something that even they couldn't rectify. Naruto. Disrupting the foreboding and ongoing silence again, Sasuke spoke to his friend, concern and anxiety evident in his voice as he placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder. In response to him, Naruto flashed a weak smile. "I'm fine, Sasuke. It's just a minor dash." "No, you're not." The Uchiha boy immediately stopped the blonde before another stupid excuse could be given. Naruto was dying. He could see it. It was apparent to see, especially with his eyes from which nothing could be hidden. The red liquid that slithered down his friend's fingers only accentuated his presumption even more. Red. Sasuke's eyes blazed in anger as he stared at the vile liquid that had claimed many lives in the past, including his brother and the other members of their team. The memories of their deaths were still fresh in his mind. He hadn't forgotten them and couldn't even if he tried. They were eternal, ready to haunt him, and would remain forever. His friend's inevitable death made the current meeting even more painful. That red liquid that glided down Naruto's fingers was evil, more so than he or any other being. It had already claimed a part of his heart and was now back to claim the rest. "I'm fine, Sasuke. Don't worry about me." Lies. Naruto's tone of voice gave away his intent. Sasuke could recognize what Naruto was trying to do. His friend was a terrible liar, and he could see through the attempted ruse. He wasn't fine. Sasuke would know if he was healthy. His one and only friend was dying, and it angered him that he couldn't do anything about it because of the ongoing war. But that didn't mean Sasuke never tried to do something about it. He, along with his late friend Sakura, had traveled camp after camp, trying to find a cure to his friend's illness. Unfortunately, the disease that this war had cursed Naruto with was incurable. It was the same disease that had claimed his brother's life, and even Tsunade couldn't do anything about it, and that only frustrated him further. Naruto was being destroyed from the inside, and all he could do was watch him wither away. Even after possessing the Eye of God, he was powerless to act for the one dearest to him. Naruto rejected any offer to be revived by abnormal means. "I would rather die than be brought back through some stupid SI power of yours, idiot. I want to see my parents, you know? I don't want to stay in this hell." Hell. A frown marred Sasuke's face as he reminisced about the incident that involved a certain individual that had led to the change in Naruto's perspective of their world. Hinata. It was all because of that girl and her final words to his friend before her untimely demise. She changed Naruto's perspective completely, and Sasuke couldn't bring himself to hate that girl for it. She just did what any person would do to protect their loved ones, especially when the said loved one was the last remaining hope of their world. Sacrifice. Hinata sacrificed herself so that Naruto could live on and learn how to love and be loved. A concept that was foreign for both of them. While he had his team Taka, who at least tried to introduce him to the strange feeling, his friend, on the other hand, had no one. Not a single soul. Sasuke? Sasuke's eyes flickered towards his friend and got blinded by the light that was emanating from Naruto's smile. It was bright and contagious as ever. "How are you still smiling, idiot?" He couldn't help but ask. Even with death looming over him, he showed no fear. The shock and confusion on his face increased 1,000-fold when the blonde lightly flicked him on the forehead with his finger. "I may be an idiot, Sasuke. But I'm also Uzumaki Naruto, the one who is going to save this world and your sorry ass from that Madara." Naruto's smile and words eased Sasuke's worry slightly. They just had this effect on people, and he was no exception. "And to answer your stupid question, well, I can smile as much as I want. We can't run away from death. It's an inevitability. It will catch up with us sooner or later, you know. But that doesn't mean we should fear it. Instead, we should be ready for it when it comes for us. Sasuke blinked, confusion swirling within his mismatched eyes. How? He asked, failing to notice the thunderstorm that began to form outside their cabin. By living rather than existing, stupid. Ero Sennin always used to say that we can exist for centuries without living for a single day. However, to live, we must find a meaningful cause for our existence. Mine was saving the world, which I will fulfill soon, while yours is to protect what I will achieve and live a happy life. Naruto withdrew his hand from Sasuke's forehead when he detected a storm of mixed emotions brewing inside his mind. It was faint, but he could clearly see anger, confusion, sadness, and a hint of affection expressed through his eyes and face. Sasuke stared at him for a while before speaking again. But you are all I have left now. Without you, my life will become barren once again. His voice was a mere whisper by now, and his face was pointed towards the ground, too ashamed to look anywhere else. Lies. Naruto whispered. I'm not going anywhere. I'll always remain beside you even when I become a ghost, hee. I'm sure Kakashi-sensei and Sakura-chan are doing the same too. Sharp and unforgiving as cold ice needles, his friend's words cut across Sasuke's heart mercilessly. Naruto. He tried to speak more, but nothing came out of his mouth. What was he supposed to say? He couldn't even look him in the eyes. Such was the shame he held within himself at that moment. Seeing that Sasuke was not going to speak any further, Naruto decided to ask him the question which he had called his friend for in the first place. Can you do something for me, Sasuke? He asked, and before he could even explain his question further, Sasuke interrupted him. What is it? Naruto smiled as he took notice of the anxiety and hope in his friend's voice. Can you put my grave alongside Sensei and Sakura's? His question was met with a surprised look from his friend, but that didn't stop him. Hey, don't look at me like that. I don't want to wander as a ghost alone, you know. His voice got softer. It would suck if I end up being lonely even after death. Rinnegan blazed in Sasuke's left eye. You are not dying, Naruto. I won't let you die. I don't have anything to live for at this moment. Soon, the world will be safe and I won't be needed anymore. With how fast this is spreading, I'm as good as dead right now. Naruto, shut your damn mouth for once, idiot. Naruto smirked. Sure, but you have to grant me my wish. Sasuke could have made numerous excuses at that moment to evade Naruto's foolish request, but decided not to when he saw something that he had not seen for a while in his friend's eyes. Happiness. Naruto was truly happy at that moment, and try as he might, Sasuke couldn't say no to him when he was that happy about something. Uchiha Sasuke, you there? A trail of tears descended from his eyes as Sasuke realized just how much pain his friend had endured at the hands of the people of their world. Since his sad and lonely childhood, there had never been a day when Naruto wasn't hurt by someone in one way or another. Even now, while trying to save these pitiful people at the cost of his happiness and friends' lives, his friend was still suffering so that they could remain safe. In a moment of pure spite, Sasuke wished to transfer the pain away from Naruto and relay it upon those unworthy fools. He was sure if he was in Naruto's shoes, he would have destroyed the whole world twice over by now. If he could not have his happiness after suffering for so long, then others didn't deserve it either. Yet here he was, his stupid and naive friend, smiling just like he used to do in the past. Fine, but I still won't let you die, even if it costs me my life. Ah. Since when did you become so kind, Sasuke? Okay. I won't joke anymore since I can see that you are being serious. Sasuke's lips trembled when he saw Naruto hold back another fit of those violent coughs. Oh you will save me, right? You can't just back off now. A small smile slithered its way to Sasuke's dry lips. Of course, I will. Oh. Ha. A pair of cobalt blue eyes snapped open as they tried to forget the bitter memory that they had just seen. It was awful and disheartening as it reminded Naruto of just what he had made his friend do. Sasuke. Naruto couldn't help but reminisce about the sweet and sour time that he had spent with him during the war. As much as he hated it due to them being alone, it was still far better than what he was experiencing right now. He didn't want it, the daily struggle of keeping up and hiding in this new world. He wanted to die so that he could finally reunite with everyone in heaven or hell, if any such places existed. Tap. A sad smile marred his lips as a drop of crystal-clear liquid fell down from his eyes and stained his nightclothes, ones that Rias had bought for him a few days ago from that store. Rias. For the 1000th time ever since he had started this strange journey, Uzumaki Naruto found himself looking for that crimson-haired girl. Scouring in the darkness of the room for a while, he eventually found her. There she is, he thought. Sleeping carelessly in the warm embrace of fluffy blankets on the bed beside his own, his companion was having a nice and comfortable sleep, something that he wished he could have too. But sadly, it was a luxury he couldn't afford anymore. Sasuke and Sakura permeated his dreams during his slumbers and left behind nothing but tragic dreams and a constant reminder of their unfortunate deaths. Whenever he tried to sleep, their smiling faces would plague his dreams and wake him up. It had been like that ever since that tragic war. After struggling for a few months, Naruto eventually gave up and decided it was better to stay awake during the night. Getting no sleep at all was far better than those horrible dreams. At first, it was tiring, but soon he began to adjust to that lifestyle, and before he knew it, he was living a life starkly similar to that of his old mentor, Jiraiya. Naruto smiled to himself as the familiar face of his mentor began to form in his mind, easing his pain a little. You were right, Ero-Sennin. A place only feels like home when you have someone to welcome you there. His whisper was barely audible, even to himself, but he didn't mind as it meant it wouldn't wake up Rias. No matter how many types of ramen I eat on this trip, nothing will comfort my heart as long as they aren't prepared by someone I respect, someone I adore. Eyes wet, Naruto turned towards the fairly bright corner of the room where windows were located and saw that the moon was shining brightly unlike the past few nights. I need to breathe some fresh air. This strong smell of perfume is messing up my mind. With that thought in his mind, Naruto stood up from his bed and began to walk towards the windows, while making sure not to wake up his companion. Beautiful was the first thing that left his mouth as soon as he looked outside the window. Darkness was everywhere, but the light reflected off of the moon was compensating for it. If Naruto had to define it, he would have said that it was like a beautiful dance between darkness and light that he could only admire from afar. His dull eyes, which hadn't shown many emotions since the tragic deaths of his friends, were basking in the light again, and for a sliver of a second, he felt like he was alive. He wanted to explore the night, savor it, breathe it, and most importantly, he wanted to be a part of it. It was the feeling of belonging somewhere that was making him think like that, but his fragile heart knew it was impossible now. Just like the night outside, he was transient too, and it was only a matter of time before he would vanish from the world. After that, nothing would be left of him, nothing. Not even a small memento. I need to finish this trip, he whispered to himself as the feeling of dread began to well up inside him again. Oh. So she is staying in that inn? Wymond, the beloved assassin servant of Zeaticus Grimory, whispered as he stared at the beautiful inn that was located a few hundred meters away from him. Still can't believe that Lady Rias mustered up the courage to run away like that too with a human boy. His feet began to walk towards the establishment, and with every step he took, he released a blast of magic to lighten up the dark surrounding around him. If I'm not wrong, I saw him coming here. His eyes squinted a little as he tried to remember the path on which he had seen that boy walk a little while ago. From the looks of him, he seemed like a normal person. Then why did he tag along with Lady Rias? It was a question everyone had been asking each other for the past few days, but if you asked Wyman, it wasn't that hard to answer if you looked at it from the perspective of a teenage boy. The boy was probably looking for the company of a partner, and when Lady Rias offered him that, he accepted it without even giving it a second thought. A small smile flickered on his lips. But I have to give him credit for that. Not every day do you see people like him who will run away with a person without even checking out their background. He is brave, a stupid brave boy. Wyman would have added something to his assessment of the boy but stopped when his mind remembered something important. The boy is lucky too, he muttered, remembering how Lord Lucifer himself had told everyone to keep the knowledge about Rias' location secret from the Phoenix household. If Lord Zeaticus had told Riser Phoenix about her location, then I'm sure the young heir would have killed this boy by now. He stumbled a little when his right feet made contact with a small stone lying awry on the ground. Glancing down, he stared at the stone for a while before crushing it under his boots. But luckily for this boy, I was sent to fetch Lady Rias. His lips curved up to form a smile as a strange sensation flickered inside him. But that doesn't mean I wouldn't punish him for running away with our beloved lady like that. The smile on his face turned sinister, and for a moment, an imminent shadow of death doused his face. I will punish him so hard that in future he will think twice before even looking at a girl. There was a reason his master chose him over those kind-hearted peerage members of his. Unlike those people, Wyman had no morals, and his master knew that. To complete his mission, he would go to any length possible, even if it meant killing that boy in front of Lady Rias to show her the reality. Hee. Evil laughs reverberated in the darkness as Wyman continued to stroll towards his destination, a place where blood was about to be shed. There. It wasn't long before he arrived at the place, and as he did so, Wyman took a deep breath and admired the surroundings for a minute. It was a beautiful night. Perfect for me to paint it red with that boy's blood. He giggled, this time with the excitement of being allowed to fight after so long. But I have to hold back. Lord Lucifer won't like it if I, a high-class devil, kill a human like this in yokai's territory. The excitement inside him limped a little, but he soon collected himself and began to walk towards the bright lush clearing where the boy was gazing at the stars all alone. There he is, Dash. So you are finally here? The madness-filled smile instantly vanished from Wyman's face as soon as the boy whispered those words. Huh? He wasted no time in showing his surprise. How did he know I was coming for him? The excitement inside him got replaced with surprise and confusion when he noticed that the boy hadn't even turned to acknowledge his presence. I knew someone was following us ever since we met those goons, but didn't know who. Naruto finally turned around and glanced at the man, his eyes glowing brightly as an orange hue surrounded them. But now, since you have finally decided to show yourself, don't waste time and tell me, why are you stalking us? His words were simple but cold at the same time, something that made Wyman's body tingle with excitement. So you knew? The man whispered, staring into the boy's beautiful eyes as if they were some sort of a marvel. The sinister smile returned to Wyman's face. I see. He trailed off and bowed a little. Then let me introduce myself first. His words and mannerisms had no effect on the boy, and it only made him more excited. My name Wyman Hardell. I'm the servant of Zeaticus Gremory, the father of the girl who you have abducted from her residence in Kuo, and I'm here Dash. Thwack. It was a blur. No, it wasn't even a blur. If you asked Wyman, he didn't even see anything coming towards him, but that was just his perspective. In reality, he knew he was defeated the moment when drops of blood began to trickle out of his mouth and nose like an untamed river. Ag. He tried to form some words in response to the unexpected attack, but unfortunately for him, nothing came out of his mind. Wyman tried again, but the result didn't change, and soon all he could see was darkness as the unforgiving chains of comatose claimed his body. I should have known that, was all he heard before finding himself in a state worse than death. Back at Inn, Rias had seen many beautiful things in her life, but none could compete with the scenery her eyes were witnessing from the confinement of her room. It was beautiful in every way possible. From the stars that were shining brightly in the night sky to the refreshing cold breeze that was caressing her face gently, it was like the night was trying its best to look as beautiful as it could. Where is he? But even the beauty of the night couldn't ease the pain that was surging through her heart. Did he abandon me again? The emotions inside her stirred and formed a storm that began to drown her in anxiety. The more she thought about him, the bigger the storm inside her got. It was both scary and amazing how only in a span of a few days, Naruto had managed to accomplish what other people in her life couldn't achieve in years. He evoked emotions inside her, emotions that she had abandoned a long time ago, happiness and fear being the foremost among them. Now, not only was she feeling those emotions, but was also fearing them. They were becoming her weakness and were making her do stupid things like crying in front of a stranger and begging him to be happy with her on his trip. Rias frowned ever so slightly at the mention of the journey that had bound them together. It's our first and last journey together. Just mentioning that loud made her sad in an instant, and she didn't even know why. Why am I acting like this? She thought, trying to decipher the reason as to why she was beginning to take this trip so seriously. At first, for her, it was just a way of escaping that prison, but now, when she thought about it, Rias had begun to realize that she was beginning to see Naruto as a true friend. He was becoming a part of her life. In a mere span of time, his influence on her had increased so much that it was making her do stupid things, even going as far as to wish that she could die alongside him. But it's because this trip is very important to him and I want to see him smile more often. If, in order to see him smile, she had to finish this trip with him, then Rias would gladly accompany him on that. After all, for all he had done for her in these last few days, the least she could do was give him company on this trip. As long as he promised to remain by her side, she would blindly follow him everywhere, even to the heavens. Such was the state of her mind that she was ready to give her life in exchange for positive attention from someone pure, someone who saw her as not a piece of flesh or a pawn that could be thrown away anytime, and Naruto was that someone. Rias could see everything in his eyes. They were just like hers, simple and filled with nothing but kindness and shame. The only impediment was his pessimistic attitude. He was depressed, and Rias couldn't help but worry that if given a chance he would abandon her and commit suicide before they could even reach Fukuoka. The anxiety and anger returned as she stared at the window of her room, waiting for the arrival of her companion. He had been missing for hours now, and she had no clue about his whereabouts now. Sure, she could use her devil magic to find him faster, but in the end, that would be useless according to her. If he didn't want her alongside him, then there was nothing she could do that would make him think otherwise. The only thing she could do was either cry out her anger or wait, and Rias was content with the latter for now. She would wait for him, 1 day, 2 days, or even a whole week. She was ready to do it for eternity if it meant she could stay away from her past. But what if he never returns? Then she would embark on a trip of her own to find him. Anything that could lead her to him, she was ready to do it. Let's just wait for him for now. Don't think about anything else. Just wait for him, she whispered, her eyes still fixated on the window sill. Seconds progressed into minutes, and minutes turned into hours, yet he didn't return. The silence of the room soon began to haunt Rias, and the night that was appearing beautiful a moment ago turned outright ugly. The stars turned bland and the cold breeze became harsh as she continued to wait for Naruto. Miss. A soft voice, one that Rias was sure she had heard somewhere, finally broke the silence and eased her pain a little. It wasn't long before Rias turned around and saw that it was none other than the owner of the inn which they were staying in. Suki-san. She immediately greeted the lady with a fake smile and motioned her to enter the room. What brought you here in the middle of the night? Her lips wavered a little and her heart kindled with hope as she gave all her attention to the lady, hoping to hear about Naruto from her. Maybe he had sent her to bring her to him. Everything became dull again when instead of informing her about Naruto, the lady gave her an apologetic look. It was a look filled with sadness and shame, one that she had seen a lot in the mirror daily. "I'm sorry for disturbing you, miss, but I came here to check whether you are safe or not." Suki's words only annoyed Rias more. "Check on me? But why?" "I'm totally fine, Suki-san." "I know, Rias-san, but a few hours ago our security officers saw someone jump out of the window of your room, and when he told me about that, I immediately came rushing down here to check whether you are fine or not." Rias became silent for a while and said nothing. Finally, after ruminating for a while, she opened her mouth, her voice a lot softer than earlier. "I see. Thank you for that, Suki-san, but as you can see, I'm totally fine. Now you don't have to worry about me anymore." She ended her statement with a small smile, a thing that the lady returned immediately. "I'm glad to hear that, Rias-san," Suki murmured before rambling her eyes around the room for one last check. During that check, she noticed something unusual. "Where is Naruto-san?" She asked the girl because as far as she knew, the boy and the girl were given one single room. "I don't know." Rias' blunt answer caught Suki off guard. "You don't know? What kind of an answer is that, Rias-san?" Suki chastised the younger girl immediately for her rude response. "You are his wife, you should know where he has gone in the middle of the night." "Wife?" Rias was about to retort back, but couldn't when a familiar voice stopped her before she could even utter a single word. "I'm here." Both women immediately turned around and saw that the owner of the voice was none other than Naruto, who right now was resting carelessly on the window sill. Lips arched into a thin line and hair all messed up, he was looking like he had just woken up from a deep sleep. "Naruto-san." While Rias was staring at the boy silently, Suki didn't waste any time in showing her surprise. "What are you doing there, and where were you all this time?" she asked the boy in an elderly tone, no doubt both amused and concerned with what she had just witnessed. Naruto blinked at the lady before giving her a sheepish look as an apology for all the inconvenience he had caused her. I was just enjoying the night on the roof and didn't notice when my eyes closed on their own." His explanation was short, but he was sure it was enough for the lady. His presumption turned out to be true when the lady gently nodded her head. "I see, but you shouldn't be climbing to the roof like that, Naruto-san. It's not safe and is against this establishment's customer policies." Although she was scolding him for his carelessness, nothing in her voice felt like a threat or a warning. It was kind of a motherly scolding, and Naruto was all for that. "I'm sorry then, Suki-san. I didn't know about that." Suki smiled at the boy. "No problem, Naruto-san. Just don't do it again." With that, the lady began to leave their room, allowing Naruto to breathe a sigh of relief. Also, his senses spiked again when Suki abruptly stopped at the wooden entrance and looked over her shoulder to glare at him. "Don't leave Rias alone like that, Naruto-san. It's not good." Naruto didn't know how to reply to that. So he just lowered his head a little and nodded at her. "Oh, okay. I won't." He whispered and relaxed immediately when the lady finally left their room, leaving two of them alone there. "Where were you?" He didn't look at her. He couldn't, as it was the second time he had left her alone like that without telling her anything. "On the roof." Tried stargazing, but it was boring. The answer got no reaction from her, at least not verbally. Naruto blinked in surprise when she didn't argue any further but made no comment about it. If she wanted to remain silent, then not only was it good for her, but also for him, as it would save a lot of his time that otherwise would be wasted on senseless arguments. "Well, anyway, I think we should get to SLE-. Are you truly happy with me being here, Naruto?" Ria's question caught him off guard as he hastily turned around and looked at her face that was covered in one of the saddest smiles he had ever seen. I mean, if you don't want me here, then I can leave. I don't want to ruin your trip. Her words were a mere whisper now, but Naruto could still hear them. No. I'm not happy with you being here, Rias. He answered and saw that smile wither away from her beautiful face. But I don't have to. You are not here to entertain me. You are here to walk along with me on those rugged and unknown roads, Rias, and I'm content with that. His lips formed a thin line when the smile returned to her face, barely restraining themselves from flashing her a small smile. Also, don't ask these silly questions again. I know what I was getting into when I allowed you to tag along with me, so don't worry about what I think and just enjoy the trip. Ria's face warmed up with satisfaction. Okay. Naruto nodded his head at her and was about to lay down on his bed, but was stopped by an unexpected suggestion from Rias. Also, try to cry less, Naruto. You lose a decent amount of water and salt when you cry. It's not good for your health. If it was a few years earlier, Naruto would have laughed loudly to feign ignorance, but time had given him more maturity, which was why he flashed her a small smile instead. Okay. I'll keep that in mind. End. Chapter 6, Red Threads. Love? What do you want to know about it, Rias? Xerxes, the ruler of the underworld, asked his beloved sister. What does it feel like? The man blinked at the strange question. And he was quick to show his confusion to his sister, who only sighed at him in response. I mean, how does it feel when you love someone? Does it feel good, or is it just a normal feeling? He finally understood what his sister was trying to ask. So you want to know how I felt when I started going out with Graphia? His question was met with an instant nod of approval from Rias. Well, it was a great feeling. If I had to describe it in a sentence, I would say it was one of the most beautiful times of my life. Even the tragic atmosphere around us hardly ever affected me when I was with her. Her presence alone was enough to change my mood. A wistful smile made its way to his lips as he began recollecting the memories he and his wife had made together over all these years. Rias, who was listening to her brother intently, couldn't help but feel ecstatic and sad at the same time. Happy because of the magnitude of the love her brother held within him for his wife, and sad because of the fact that she would never have the opportunity to experience what her brother had experienced. Her life was supposed to be governed by other people, influential people. Rias? Her greenish-blue eyes snapped open to reality when she heard her brother's voice. She looked at him and saw that he was staring at her with worry-filled eyes. Those eyes worsened her mood even further because they made her realize just how much pain she brings to the only few people that love her. I'm sorry. I was just thinking about something. It's fine, Rias. You are a child, and children daydream a lot. Xerxes wanted to lighten up the mood, but unfortunately, his words had the opposite effect on his sister. Instead of laughing at his joke like he had supposed she would, Rias began staring at him with her blank eyes. They were chilling to look at as they reminded him of his failures, the biggest one being not standing against his father for her. You have a very nice life, brother. Rias' words broke Xerxes' heart into a million pieces. They were like sharp ice needles that hurt but never left a trace behind. Unlike me, you have everything. Her voice was devoid of any emotion, and so was her face. Rias. Seeing her like that broke Xerxes. It was all because of his father. He was the sole reason behind his sister's current state. Don't say that. You will have everything you want soon. I won't. Rias immediately countered him with a desolate response. I know what is going to happen to me in the future, brother. You don't have to give me any more false hopes now. They won't work. Winds picked up pace around them as Xerxes clenched his hands in frustration. I'm not lying, Rias, he whispered, his heart beating loudly inside his chest. The emotions he was feeling right now were unusual. They weren't supposed to be bubbling inside him. When I said everything is going to be fine, I was telling the truth. You might not believe me, but I'm sure you won't be spending your precious life with that insolent boy. He isn't the one who is supposed to be your partner. Every word he said was spoken with such conviction that Rias looked enchanted by them for a few seconds. Then who is supposed to be my partner? She was quick to question because she wanted to know about that person as soon as possible so that she could leave the life she was living right now. If what her brother was saying was true, then that person was going to make her life livable, and that's all she wanted. The answer to her question came in the form of a smile, something that confused her to no end. That's your job to find him, my cute little sister, Serzex giggled, knowing very well what she was going to say next, but before she could, he decided to answer her in advance. No one helped me find Grafia, Rias. I found her on my own, and that's how you are going to find him too. A comfortable silence fell between the two siblings. Amidst the silence, the winds picked up their pace once again, making trees around them dance in a harmonious tone. Rias, who was pondering the words her brother had just spoken, closed her eyes to enjoy the sound nature was making. The gentle rustling of leaves and the pleasant chirping of insects combined were composing an amazing song. How? Serzex blinked in confusion. Huh? He looked at his sister and saw that she was staring at him with a hopeful look on her face. How am I going to find him? Ria's question was acceptable as she was still just a child who barely knew anything about the concept of love, but that didn't stop Serzex from smiling at her innocence. His sister was the cutest. Here, raising his hand, he motioned Rias to grab it. Hold my hand. He whispered and was pleased when his sister immediately followed his proposal. Now what? Now, Serzex paused for a second before he squeezed Rias' hand a little. Rias, who was waiting for something big to happen, couldn't help but sigh in disappointment when all her brother did was squeeze her hand gently with his own. Really? She was no doubt unhappy with her brother's actions. Her mind was expecting something remarkable to happen, but just like all the other times in the past, her brother did nothing. Huh? Is this all you could do, brother? The smile on Serzex's face got wider. It answered your question, though. His eyes twinkled in mirth when confusion doused his sister's beautiful face. What? Rias exclaimed. How did it answer anything? All you did was hold my hand. Her voice cracked a little at the end, an indication of the anger that was beginning to seep out from inside her. You didn't feel anything? Rias shook her head. No. Why would I? She asked. Exactly. See, you answered your own question, Rias. Ah. Don't confuse me anymore, brother. Just explain it in simple words. Serzex squeezed her hand again. The reason you didn't feel anything unusual out of it was that it was me, your brother, who did it. Huh? The ruler of the devil's side. You don't love me, Rias. He groaned, not liking to admit the fact that someday she was going to find someone who she was going to love more than him. Rias squinted her eyes in confusion. But she was about to respond to her brother's false claim, but stopped when she finally realized what he was trying to explain to her. Looking back at their hands, she gasped when it dawned on her. Be brother. The stuttering of his sister was all Serzex needed to hear to know that Rias finally understood everything. Yes. He nodded his head, the warm smile still plastered on his face. Rias untangled her hand from his and began staring at it as if it was the answer to her every question. So, I'll feel something special inside me when the boy who is supposed to be my partner is going to hold my hand? She whispered her question to her brother. Yes. Rias kept staring at her hand for a while more before a small but bright smile finally bloomed on her lips. I see. XXX. Hold my hand. Riser blinked at the strange request of his future wife. What? he asked her, fearing that the girl might have lost her sanity due to the fear of marrying him. He had that effect on women, and he was aware of it. Hold it. The venom in her voice didn't go unnoticed by Riser. Realizing that making her wait wasn't a great idea, Riser gently grabbed her hand with his own. For a while, everything went quiet as Rias continued to stare at him with her harsh yet fearful eyes. No. Riser wanted to ask her what she meant by that, but before he could do that, the girl left the hall, leaving him alone with his thoughts. What did she do? He asked himself, but shrugged it off, thinking it was one of her many acts to make him believe that she was a crazy person, and he shouldn't be marrying her. At least I got to feel her hand. XXX. Rias, meet Issei. Rias glanced up from her desk to look at the people who were standing at the entrance of her office. Sona, she immediately recognized her friend, and was about to stand up from her seat and hug her, but stopped when she saw someone else standing beside her. Sona saw how her friend was looking at Issei, and smiled when she saw nothing but confusion there. At least she wasn't annoyed like last time when she brought someone unknown to her office. He is Issei. Remember the boy that I told you about? She answered, hoping that her friend would remember him without her explaining everything about him to her once again. Oh, him! Rias exclaimed, faking excitement for the sake of her friend. She now knew why her friend had brought Issei with her, and if she had to be honest, Rias had no interest in what was going to happen next. She had already made everyone aware of her decision regarding her peerage. She didn't want to ruin the lives of more innocent people by forcing them to join her peerage. Yes. As I promised you that day, I have explained everything to him and he is ready to join your peerage. Ria's smile wavered a little. On one hand, she was glad to have a friend like Sona who cared so much about her, but on another, she couldn't help but feel sad about what she was about to do to her. I don't think I need any more. Don't be ridiculous, Rias. You left the chance to retrieve him on that day too, and now, you are doing the same thing again. He can help you, Rias. The redhead girl nodded her head, completely agreeing with her friend. I know, she whispered, her voice laced with sadness and uncertainty. But what if he gets hurt during? Sona decided to interrupt her again. He won't. I can assure you that, Rias. Her tone was firm and her eyes were full of conviction, something that silenced Rias for a few seconds. I see. Rias finally stood up from her seat, slowly walking toward the boy who was standing silently beside her friend. Issei, her eyes gleamed with hope as she laid her gaze on him. If what Sona was saying turned out to be true, then Rias was sure that the boy would be the one to save her from that nightmare. Why, yes. Her cheeks got doused in the color of her hair as she finally stopped her stroll right in front of him. Nice to meet you, she whispered, nudging her hand forward to greet the boy. Nice to meet you too, Rias-senpai. The feeling known as anticipation swelled inside her as their hands got locked with each other, and so did their eyes. The anticipation soon turned into disappointment when Rias saw nothing but perversion in his eyes. She squeezed his hand a little to test her brother's theory, but even then, she could feel nothing. Rias? Her eyes veered off from his face and turned toward Sona. I'm sorry, Sona. She murmured with a sad smile on her face. Huh? I can't do it. Oh. Rias. A pair of beautiful greenish-blue eyes snapped open to reality, only to come face to face with another pair of beautiful blue eyes. Naruto. It didn't take long for her to recognize the owner of those eyes. What are you doing? Weren't we supposed to be sleeping right now? Raising her hands to her face, Rias gently rubbed her eyes to knock the remaining sleep out of them. It's already morning, Rias. You have been sleeping for 10 hours now. That statement alarmed her senses. Realizing that she had failed to get up on time again, Rias immediately stood up on her feet and began to look around to check out her surroundings. Usually, whenever she had refused to wake up on time in the past few days, Naruto had picked her up on his back and had completed a part of the trail on his own while carrying her like a useless sack of potatoes. Huh? We are still in the inn. To say she was shocked would be an understatement. She was beyond shocked, as there was no way Naruto had waited for her to wake up. Naruto, who was watching her every action with his sharp eyes, looked away from her to hide his face. Yes. You said you don't like it whenever I travel while you are asleep, so I waited for you to wake up this time. He answered, his tone treading on the thin line that separated shyness and embarrassment. Really? The warmth and surprise in Rias' voice didn't go unnoticed by him. He nodded his head in response. Also, the breakfast is ready in the other room. So freshen up quick, before it gets cold. Oh, okay. Phoenix Manor. Fear. It was an anomaly that Riser Phoenix never had to worry about in his life. The concept of fear was strange and unknown to him. For him, it existed nowhere but in the pages of the man-made history of the past, fictional tales, and the lives of weak individuals. Fear had no place in his life, at least that's what he used to think until now. What happened to him? For the first time in his life, Riser was scared a little bit, but terrified nonetheless. Who did this to him? His eyes drifted off to the corner of the room where the cause of his fear was lying lifelessly on the cold ground. Wyman Hartel's dead body. Contrary to what people might have heard till now about it, the body of the man was completely fine. It had no wounds or gashes anywhere and was looking healthy for someone who was declared as dead just a few minutes ago. But that wasn't the reason for Riser's fear. The cause of his fear was somewhere else, somewhere far away in the human world where he was probably fucking his wife in an inn. A boy. Fear gripped his heart again. Riser didn't want to hear the same answer again. There was no way a mere boy was behind all of this. How could a single boy kill a high-class assassin of Gremory's house with so much precision? Riser couldn't understand. If what he had managed to find about Wymond was true, then he was in big trouble. The man Wymond was a high-class devil, which means he was almost as powerful as him. If that boy killed Wymond so easily, then who is going to stop him from doing the same to me? His eyes squinted shut as he tried to clear the image that had been haunting his mind ever since he had seen the dead body of Wymond. The same boy killed a small group of Yakuza men a few days ago. The fear doubled inside Riser's mind. What? He stuttered, cursing himself for losing control so easily. But you don't have to worry about anything, Riser. Wymond died because he was alone, but you aren't. You can take your whole peerage with you when you go there to meet him. Just like that, the fear vanished completely from his face and got replaced by a familiar arrogant look that had ruined many people's lives, devils included. Peerage? Riser giggled. Yes, peerage. The fear that was still lingering inside his mind turned into anger as he began to imagine all the obscene things that man must be doing to his wife. I'll kill him, Dad. Oh. The breakfast they just had was amazing, Rias had to acknowledge that. In her lifetime she had eaten a lot of different things from a variety of different restaurants, but never had she eaten something so delicious that had managed to change her entire mood in a matter of seconds. If the food alone was not enough, Naruto had taken her by surprise too. Today, he was behaving very differently, something that she had no complaints about because he was at least talking to her normally instead of giving her a cold shoulder like he always does. It's beautiful, Rias whispered, gazing at the trees and plants that were waving harmoniously in the wind. Right now, they were sitting on the porch located at the backside of their inn, and if Naruto's smile was anything to go by, the boy was liking the view too. Yes, it is. Ria's smile widened. So, were you able to sleep today, Naruto? She asked him, knowing very well how hard it was for him to get a good sleep. From what she had seen till now, Naruto had never been able to sleep because of the nightmares he gets. They were always there to haunt his sleep. Yes. I did sleep for an hour or two, I think, Naruto answered, his eyes still gazing at the view in front of him. It was mesmerizing as it reminded him of the time he had spent with his mentor on his training trip. They used to stay at inns like this a lot, it was normal for them, and he used to love every second of it. Only two? He nodded his head. You need to increase your sleeping time, Naruto, Rias murmured, her voice laced with concern and gloom. If you keep disregarding your sleep like this, then it will have a negative impact on your health. Her words managed to earn her a smile from the boy. It's fine, Rias. I'm used to this now. Naruto wasn't lying. Ever since that war started, he had barely managed to get proper sleep. Even if he had tried, it was impossible for him to do so because of the threat that was looming over them. And when the war got over, the nightmares of his friend's death began to ruin his sleep. But still, you should try to get proper sleep. Knowing that she wasn't going to let the topic go unless he accepted what she was suggesting, he decided to accept his defeat. Okay. He murmured. Rias was about to speak again, but stopped when she realized what he had just done. Wait, did you just accept my advice? She looked at him and was not a bit surprised to see him still staring at the trees, avoiding her gaze like it was some sort of a plague. Yes, I did. Any problem with that? Rias' cheeks flushed a little as she saw the look he had on his face while speaking those words. He is embarrassed. So cute. It was the first thing that came to her mind, and before she knew it, she was blushing herself. I'll soon die, so what's the problem? Just like that, both the blush and the smile vanished from her face. These words were the bane of her happiness. Whenever a ray of hope began to shine on her life, the cloud made of these words would come over and engulf it, leaving nothing but darkness and sadness behind. Rias? She gasped when Naruto's voice hauled her back to the bitter reality. Still gasping, she glanced at his face and frowned because just as she was to lock her eyes with his, he looked away from her again. Naruto. She whispered his name to him, hoping that he would hear her. Give me your hand. An uncomfortable silence fell upon the two as soon as she uttered those words, and for a few minutes, neither of them tried to break the silence. It was necessary at that moment, they both knew it. Here. Naruto was the first to break the silence as he held his hand out to Rias. He didn't know what she was trying to achieve by it, but as long as it made her happy, it was fine by him. Rias, who was sitting silently beside him, trembled in anticipation as she saw him nudge his hand towards her. Brother. She gulped and finally raised her hand. Her cold skin brushed his warm skin, and for a second, Rias felt something unusual awaken inside her, but before she could dwell deeper into it, the feeling vanished immediately. Huh? She blinked, not understanding what just happened. Was she not supposed to feel something different? Rias couldn't help but wonder. If her brother's words were true, then she was sure something special should have happened right now. But it didn't. Sadness began to swell inside her heart as Rias realized the bitter truth. Naruto isn't that person either. She was sure he was the one. He had all the qualities to be one, but sadly, he was not. Can you let go of my hand now, Rias? It's getting uncomfortable now. Rias immediately untangled her hand from his and looked away from him. So why did you do it? Do what? Grabbing my hand. I mean, there must be a reason behind it, right, Rias? Rias nodded her head. I was just checking your temperature. She whispered, her voice no longer emitting the happiness and enthusiasm as it was doing before. I see. Naruto chuckled lightly. So what did you manage to find? Am I okay? He asked her, his eyes glued to the backside of her head. Yes. Then why are you sad? Rias' eyes widened a little. I am not sad. I'm just feeling sleepy. She lied as there was no reason for him to know what she was thinking. He already held her in very low regard when it came to things like these, and she didn't want to fall even lower in his eyes. Naruto exclaimed, his oldish eyes staring at Rias as if she was some sort of an otherworldly being. You want to sleep again already? The shock in his voice was there for everyone to see, including Rias. Why yes. Naruto kept staring at her for a while more before sighing to himself. Fine, then relax a little more. We can visit the main town in the evening. He whispered, sounding a little dejected because he was looking forward to wandering around the town with her today. Thanks. Anyway, I'll go out and grab something delicious to eat for our lunch while you rest here, okay? Rias nodded and finally turned her head around to look at him, only to frown as instead of being greeted by his face, she was greeted by his back. The boy was already on his way outside, and she could not do anything but watch him with a faraway look in her eyes. Nar. She opened her mouth to call him and tell him that she was fine, but the words died on her lips when the scenery around her began altering into something terrible. The trees and plants that were looking beautiful a while ago were now looking ghastly. She looked around her and saw that everything was going through the same cycle. The inn, the porch, the grass, the trees, everything. Naruto. She whispered his name out in the hope that he would be able to listen to her and save her like he always does. Naruto. Her eyes veered off in his direction and gleamed with sadness when they noticed that he was off the hearing range now. Miserable, her eyes turned around to glance at her surroundings again. No! She whimpered and closed her eyes, not finding the courage to stare at them anymore. What is happening? Rias was in turmoil. She didn't know what was happening. A moment ago everything was fine, but now, everything seemed to be getting unpleasant with each passing second. A moment ago. She opened her eyes again and looked at the place where Naruto was sitting a while ago. Her eyes stayed glued to that place for a while before the truth finally dawned on her. Naruto. He was the reason everything had been so pleasant and vibrant to look at for the past few days. It was his presence around her that had made that night at the mountain bearable when she had first met him. She didn't need to hold his hands to feel the change. Him being around me is enough. Her eyes glistened a little as she remembered her brother's words again. You will find him on your own, Rias. I'm sure you will be able to do it. Brother. Precious transparent drops of liquid began trailing down her cheeks and stained the wooden floor beneath. Oh. Girls were strange. In his life, Naruto had met many strange people, ranging from a literal god to a vile creature that had started a war on his own, but he never had any problem handling them and their tempers. But there was one group of people who he always had a problem understanding. Girls. They were strange, and their actions even more. They said something and did something else. If he had put it in words, Naruto would say they were more unpredictable than him, which wasn't a compliment, to begin with. What happened to Rias? His mind cleared every other thought to focus on the girl that had become a significant part of his life in the past few days. She was behaving so oddly today. He still couldn't forget the face she had made when she had held his hand in hers. What was she trying to do? He had been asking this question to himself ever since he had left the inn. There was something odd going on with her, he was sure of it. But what? That he needed to find, because if he didn't then it was going to trouble him throughout the whole trip. After so many months he was finally trying to be normal around someone, but as soon as he tried to do that, Rias began to act unusually. Am I going too fast with the change? He didn't know, but maybe that was the cause. So annoying. Erosinin was right. Girls are annoying. Oh. Rias was wrong. When she had first entered the town, she had thought the town was nothing but a small piece of beautiful land that was surrounded by exotic flora and fauna. But no, The town was bigger than she had initially thought it to be. Where am I going to find him now? She asked herself, looking at the buzzing streets that were filled with countless people. All I can see are shops and small stalls. Her eyes regarded the shops for one last time before turning their attention back to the mob of people. Naruto. Rias yelled his name in hope that he would hear her, but deep inside she knew it was useless as there was no way one could hear her on this busy street. Naru. Are you lost, madam? An alluring voice grabbed Rias' attention immediately and forced her to turn around. Huh? The way the person called her, Rias was expecting to see a shopkeeper fully prepared to sell her their items and useless accessories, but instead, she was greeted by a wrinkled face of an old woman. I asked if you are lost, madam. Rias finally understood what the old lady was trying to say. No, I'm not lost, she whispered and flashed the woman a small smile, one that was meant to hide her anxiety and dismay. I'm just trying to find my hus. She paused a little before continuing. My husband left me alone to grab some food and he had still not returned. The true zest of that word was still foreign to her. Though it did not feel as bad as it used to when she was forced to use it for Riser, it still felt odd nevertheless. That still means that you are lost, Ma. Rias. My name is Rias. Please use it instead of madam because you are clearly older than me. The old lady chuckled at the statement. I see. Then Rias, it still means that you are lost, my child. Red doused Rias' cheeks. I think I am, kind of. She mumbled in an embarrassed tone. Haha, it happens, Rias. The giggles of the old woman only made Rias more embarrassed. Anyway, do you have any picture of your husband? If yes, then I might be able to help you because I have been standing here in this street for hours now. Rias visibly perked up at the question. Yes. She exclaimed in glee. I do have a picture of him with me. The joy inside her doubled when she grabbed her necklace and unclasped the clamp gently from her neck. Here. She snapped open the heart-shaped pendant to reveal two beautiful pictures inside it, one of her and the other one of Naruto. Seeing the necklace, Rias couldn't help but thank Naruto for being so smart. He was the one who gave her the idea of having a necklace like this with her. At first, she was a little reluctant and embarrassed to wear it, but after learning about its advantages, she ultimately decided to wear it even if it meant appearing more and more like a married woman. Ah, this gentleman. I think I saw him go to the south after he refused to buy one of my unique items. Rias' face lit up as soon as she heard the lady's answer. Thank you. She was about to leave, but stopped when she noticed something odd with the answer she had just heard. Wait, unique items? What are you talking about? The answer to Rias' question came in the form of cardboard that had different types of unusual items hanging on its edges. This, the old woman responded, pointing towards a pair of rings that were lying in the middle of the box. I showed them to him because he looked like a recently married man, but he refused to buy them because he didn't believe in what I told him about these rings. What did you tell him? Rias asked the lady. These rings are very powerful, my dear. My grandpa used to create them, and it is said that the couple who wears these rings can never be separated from each other. I see. Rias was still physically present in the conversation with the lady, but her mind was totally focused on the plastic package that was hanging on the corner of the box. Do you like those threads? It didn't take long for the old lady to realize where her potential customer's interest was focused. They are very special too. A small smirk dared to appear on her wrinkled lips when Rias finally looked at her. The girl was hers now, she noted. Now it was up to her what she wanted to sell to the girl. Special? Rias' interest was at its peak now, and there was no way she was going to leave before knowing about the story of those threads. The old lady nodded her head gently. They are red threads of fate. The smirk finally bloomed on her lips when Rias' eyes widened a little after hearing her explanation. Red threads of fate? Oh. Naruto was confused yet again. In the span of a single day, he had found himself being lost about random stuff twice. The first was with Rias when she had decided to change her mood all of a sudden, and the second one was right now, about their lunch. Where am I supposed to buy lunch for us? And what am I supposed to buy in it? He was uncertain about almost everything right now. Usually, Rias would always be there to help him with lunch and dinner, but today, even she was not there for him. He was all alone, just like the old times. I think I'll just buy ramen. Naruto. Every thought left his mind as soon as a familiar voice entered his ears. Rias? He immediately turned around and was more than surprised to see a happy Rias running toward him. Yes. The girl abruptly stopped her run in front of him, gasping for air as the fatigue began to affect her body. What are you doing here? Didn't you want to sleep? Rias nodded her head negatively. No, I'm fine, she managed to answer between the heavy breaths. I wanted to be here and travel around the town with you. Naruto blinked in confusion. What is going on? He thought to himself as he couldn't understand what had brought this change in her behavior again. Are you okay, Rias? He was getting worried about her mental health now. I'm absolutely fine, Naruto. Naruto didn't buy it. If she was absolutely fine, then she would have never come here all alone to search for him. She wasn't that kind of a person. Give me your hand. The concern inside him doubled. Rias. Just do it. Although uncertain, he still didn't try to debate with her and slowly held out his hand to her. Here. He murmured, feeling a little anxious about what was happening to his partner. Nice. Naruto was prepared for yet another round of awkward hand-holding, but Rias stunned him when instead of holding his hand as she did earlier in the inn, she began to drape something around his wrist. Looking down, he saw that she was tying something that looked like a piece of red thread around his hand. What are you doing? He finally asked her. Nothing. Just saving you from ghosts. The word alone made Naruto's entire body shiver with fear. How is this thread going to help me with that? Although his voice was sounding normal, traces of fear could still be seen if one noticed intently. Ghosts don't come near the color red. They hate it. Oblivious to the smile that was decorating Rias' lips as she was tying the thread around his hand, Naruto gulped loudly. Really? He asked her, no doubt touched by the fact that she decided to go out of her way to buy something for him, even if it was for something as trivial as ghosts. Rias nodded her head gently. Naruto was about to thank her, but stopped when he noticed the lack of a red thread on Rias' hands. Hey, where's your thread? He said, still trying to find it somewhere on her limbs. Rias, who was almost done with her task, finally looked up and smiled at him. I don't need one. I have red hair, Naruto. Her smile widened when Naruto's shoulders sulked due to embarrassment. My bad. It's fine, Naruto. Realizing that she was not going to get a better moment than this, Rias nudged her hand forward and grabbed Naruto's hand tightly. Anyway, let's continue our trip to find lunch. She exclaimed, unaware of the look that Naruto got on, a slightly red face. Oh, okay. Winds picked up, making their hair flail wildly with it, and within that beautiful dance of Rias' red tresses, one could see a thin thread of red color swing back and forth along with them. End.